In this video, we strive to remain spoiler-free, discussing only story and plot elements from the books relevant to what has occurred already on the show. When necessary, a spoiler warning with a countdown will be given.
Hi, I'm Bill, also known as Matt Stacker.
I'm Max.
And I'm the Geeky Hippie. Welcome back to What the Adaptation, the YouTube channel that reviews adaptations from one format to another. This week we continue with The Witcher, and we have a returning guest, our friend Jim. Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It's great to see all of you. Glad to be here.
Always good to have you on. How's your channel going? Got anything coming
Channel's
up?
going real well. Oh, there's always something coming up. Just lots of stuff. We're almost done covering book 5 of The Wheel of Time, our deep dive. But yes, zombies. We always have good zombies. Just dropped a zombie content episode here today.
So, Max, what can you tell us about this episode?
Oh, this is Witcher Season 3, Episode 8, The Cost of Chaos. Directed by Bola Ugan, who directed last week's episode. This episode was written by Mike Strotswatsky, who wrote the first episode of Season 3, and Troy Dangerfield, who their works include writing and producing shows like CSI Miami, Jericho, Private Practice, and The Blacklist. In this week's Week of the Witcher, Milva put on her best State Farm Insurance impression. Ooh, gotta be quicker than that. Yennefer did some boss girl stuff. Ciri acted like a one of these with some mice.
Yeah.
Geralt moaned a lot, and Henry Cavill left the show with one last brutal display of swordsmanship,
Which was beautiful.
What'd you guys think of this episode? Bill?
I enjoyed it, actually. Most of the changes, I could understand where they were coming from. Like, okay, I get it. I see why they did that. I love that Melva's with us now. That makes me happy.
Love Milva.
So, yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. And I really appreciate, some of the acting efforts. Got to give a shout out to Henry Cavill. I mean, that one scene where he's laying there, you get the side shot and the one tear rolling down his face is just, it's heartbreaking knowing it's his last episode. And, Yen's like, don't leave me, promise me.
Jim,
it's like, oh, man.
I really enjoyed the episode. I was talking ahead of time thinking about, oh man, yeah, this episode really was a letdown. And then I realized I was thinking of episode 7. No, episode 8 was quite good. It was a solid finish. And I'll have more about that later, about being a finish. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed it.
Everybody seems to dislike episode 7 a lot. And I think you're supposed to dislike episode 7. I think
they succeeded. Yes.
Max, what'd you?
I didn't hate
like
episode
the
7.
first half of the episode is kind of on the slowish side. I like parts of it interspersed, and then it really picked up near the end, especially where Henry got his action scenes. Like we finally got one last hurrah with him.
Right.
Then the whole series segment, I actually loved that whole part. It's like it felt straight out of the book to me.
A lot of it, there was some straight out of the book, but I realized watching this episode, which I also liked. I liked a lot. I even liked last week's episode to an extent, but
yeah, well, I did.
I realized poor Liam Hemsworth, he's going to have to live all the freaking time. He's going to have to do the entire rest of the show playing Geralt with a limp. And that's not going to be easy. That can't be easy, because that leg never heals. Sorry.
It's almost like he's got to go ahead and play next season as Henry Cavill playing Geralt.
I think
otherwise no one's going to be satisfied.
I think it kind of depends how they handle the replacement. Are they going to address it, not address it? I mean,
I don't see
is there going to be an in-story reason he looks different?
It's just the same. I figure is what they'll do. Soap operas have been doing it for decades, I don't think they're going to go to the point of putting a little graphic on the screen saying the role of such and such has been, recast, and it's this, which we actually have 2 new actors for 2 characters in this episode. But yeah, so we all liked it. Max, want to start us off?
Question one, of all the changes from the source material, what are some you enjoyed and what are some you disliked?
I'll let you kids go first.
For me, I really appreciate, because I've been listening to the audiobooks. Siri is particularly whiny at this point in the audiobooks. I don't know if it's the narrator, but yeah, I appreciate they downplayed that and she came off much more mature.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that change, because that narrator has got that sort of adolescent whine going on that is just sort of perfect, but it makes you cringe. So I'm kind of glad they steered away from that in the show.
Any particular changes you liked or disliked, Max?
Nothing I can really think of offhand. You know, like I said, everything we saw, I liked what I basically saw.
Okay.
Especially what Milva did to Geralt the whole episode.
She played.
You'd be dead now.
You're dead. You're dead. Yeah.
A very good use of the rule of three, with a callback redux by Geralt when he used it, but I still think it counts as rule of three because she did it 3 times. Jim, were there any changes you liked or disliked in particular?
You know, a couple changes that, well, one that I liked, we already mentioned it earlier, and it's in my background. That whole Geralt taking out a whole Nilfgaardian troop, that's not in the books.
No.
That's a classic way for him to go out, though. That was a beautiful scene. We loved getting to see him in action after seeing him laid up for a while. That was awesome. And Radovid is now king of Redania. That's not, I mean, the character Radovid is very different here in the show than he is in the book. He's much older. You know, they've done things there.
Yeah.
So I can live with that. I think I can live with what I think they're doing with that.
Was it Vizimir the king that gets assassinated in the book? So yeah,
yes.
I think this is about the right time. You know, yeah, they aged him up. He's very different than in the book, but I think this is
the whole thing with Yasker would have been a different story.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't have gone there. So
no, they could not.
I'm like, no.
Because they would have changed the what's the trying to think what the guy's name is. The sorry, I'm losing my mind on the guy's name. The who becomes like the guy in place of Radovid for the king in place of the young kid until he's of age.
Oh, the regent?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to think what his name is. Dijkstra.
Yeah.
Dijkstra.
He becomes like the king in place of Radovid as the child, I believe.
Don't need that now because Radovid's old.
Yeah.
You know what bugged me though? That scene where she picks the crown up out of the blood, she only wipes off one little part. And that thing has been sitting in congealed blood. And I'm like, there's no way that's clean. So I was expecting blood to be on his hair when she put it on his head.
Magic.
I know, it was stupid, but it just bugged me. I'm like, man, that really bugs me.
So I'll go back to Dijkstra. So even though he's not going to be like the regent of that country, he's still going to basically be in the same position with Radovid.
Yeah.
But Radovid is going to be very open to guiding.
Yeah.
I mean, he does not know anything about what to do here. So perfect. It's kind of like he'll still be the power behind it, a regent in a way.
You know, that is an element of Radovid that they kept from the books, that he needs to be guided, you know, that he's not yet ready to rule. You know, despite the fact he's old enough to rule, that he's just not ready up here. A change I dislike is what they've done with Yen. You know, it's something I had been wondering about. Max will remember since we did season 2. I've been wondering, you know, in season 2, Yennefer ends up betraying everybody in the north. The mages and the kings, all of them, and everybody's hating on her. Everybody thinks she's up to no good. And I was like, what the hell are they going to do after the Fanith coup? You know, because that in the books is where she's on the outs with everybody. And, you know, the whole being compacted into that jade statuette, you know, all of that's been cut. Francesca's not even available to do it because she's got an entirely different storyline. And part of me likes it because, okay, we're not having Yen in trouble twice, you know, repeating the same storyline, but I mean, Kraken Crate in the books is really hostile towards her when she shows up in Scully, in the Skellig Islands. Here, he's hopeful right away. And he's been recast, by the way. I didn't catch the actor's name, but that was a recast. But yeah, I really kind of don't like that they've gotten rid of... I wish this was where Yennefer was on the outs with everybody. Because I really hated season 2. And that whole thing with her being on the outs for then. But there is one thing I do like. I really like the reworking of the Fringilla Francesca storyline. It works better on television, I think, than, Francesca's storyline compacting Yen, Francesca not even being involved with the Scoia'tael. Fringilla, I don't know what they're doing with her really yet. I don't know if we're going to see her when we go to Toussaint or not. Spoiler, vague spoiler. Because she's there. But I kind of like what they're doing with those two. But anything else anybody else wanted to bring out? Okay, let's move.
Oh, question 2. How will the show interpret the appearance and nature of the costumes, props, scenery, creatures, both practical and VFX, and how did you enjoy the music?
First off, the music was great this episode, I think. Especially the over the credits music, which you ride.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed the credit music better than the rest of the episode.
Wow. Better than
that was an awesome song.
The entire episode, the credits is what nailed it for me.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I did rewind and listen to it twice. So
yeah, I made a point of finding the Witcher Season 3 soundtrack yesterday because I just was loving the music so much. And last week we had great music too. I have a question about costumes. Those feathers Philippa wears when she's in that one dress?
Yes.
Are those feathers she lost when she was in the novel form? So she's wearing...
I think they're too big for that. They were ornamental.
Yeah, I'm like, they were rather sizable.
Well, owls are pretty big, Isn't she pretty big as an owl? Could have been...
like each one of those feathers was practically the height of an owl.
Yeah,
it was really long.
Okay.
They were a good
cool idea,
6 to 8 inch big.
It was a cool idea. Okay.
Feathers.
Yeah. I picture her having Dykstra collect feathers as they fall off, and then giving them just to put on her dress.
I made this for you.
I think everything looked great. You guys?
Yeah, I had no criticism at all in this regard. Nothing jarred me out of the story. It all just seemed to fit.
Costume-wise,
I gotta give credit
wearing
to
season 1 Nilfgaard armor, at least.
Oh yeah, that was horrible. I gotta give props to sound design. I mean, like when they were dispelling what had happened to the girls. I mean, just that wet, set, crinkly sound. You can imagine the flesh coming apart, especially with headphones on. It is just, it's great. I loved it. So sound design, I think, did a great job.
I'd also, and it's something I'll talk about soon later, but there's a particular scene involving Tissaia, and the way they went back and forth in that scene was really great cinematography choices.
Yep, great cinematography and excellent editing too. On top of that, I think it was really well.
Do we want the third question, or
might as well?
Okay.
Yep.
What is a scene or sequence you most remember, enjoyed, and or hated?
Well, I mean, come on, the fight scene. I mean, that was amazing.
Yes.
I agree.
It was a good fight. I have 3 to bring up. I have a favorite, a memorable, and a dislike, but I'll let everybody go through theirs first. So, Jim?
I have 3 as well. Yeah.
Let's hear them.
All right. Mine are all likes, though. I didn't have a scene here that I really hated in this episode. I found these memorable and enjoyed them. My favorite is the scene between Dijkstra and Philippa. When Dijkstra shows he's willing to sacrifice himself for her. Now, that actor I've enjoyed all through the show, but that's a great scene, and he carried that really well. And at first, people watching may not have known what he was going to do, and then he turns that dagger, and then the way she responds to that, I knew I could trust you, but not enough to tell you about all my plans. It was so smooth, Philippa, so I really enjoyed that sequence. That was good. I already mentioned Tasea's death sequence. That's just a moving scene, powerful. And then when Ciri goes all Witcher on the bounty hunter and becomes Falka, that's a memorable moment. And that was pretty accurate too, so I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I think for me, the aftermath of her going ham on that guy was pretty impactful. Seeing how upset she was, taking a human life, and I'm like, yeah, you feel that.
My favorite scene was the last scene between Tasea and Yennefer when they were face to face before Yen went to go to the funeral service. And it ended with the two of them hugging.
Yeah.
For me, I've got a tie on most memorable. Obviously, that scene right there is pretty memorable. But I think the introduction of the rats and their fight scene, although I'm not sure I'm entirely happy with the way it was filmed. It was filmed in a very different manner than that scene right there was. It was a lot more frenetic and chaotic.
It was shaky cam, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of shakiness to the camera. I think it was pretty much handheld. But I also think what they did is they filmed at a different camera speed. So they worked at normal speed in front of the camera, but then they ramped up the speed in the editing to make everything look faster, because everything was pretty fast. But
it was very fast.
I've watched it 3 times now, and you can kind of keep track of where people are at if you really try, but it is pretty freaking chaotic.
I feel like that was intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It was, because it represents the rats. The rats are chaotic. They're chaotic evil to chaotic neutral completely, if you go with D&D terms. There is one scene I disliked, and that was because of a purely personal, emotional scene. When Yennefer found Tasea's dead. I watched this episode 4 days after my mom passed away. And that scene was hard to watch. It's been hard to watch every time I've watched the episode 3 times now. So for personal reasons, I really dislike that scene. Otherwise, the rest of the episode I really liked.
For me, the sequences I enjoyed, obviously the ones mentioned about the fighting scenes. The end credit with the music, when that rolled, I was like, that just was like, love that song. It was just like, had to hit back and listen to it again the first time I watched this episode.
Yeah.
And surprised no one's talking about that song.
I know. I was surprised it wasn't Toss a Coin to Your Witcher. Yeah. I mean, it really should be.
I think it's better. Well, I don't like Toss a Coin to Your Witcher that much. I like most of the other songs. Actually, I think Burn Witcher Burn might be my favorite, or Song of the White Wolf, because I've listened to a lot of that soundtrack a lot. Although my favorite tune in general is Yennefer's theme, that oboe. Just, I love that.
And like all the other Jaskier scenes we saw kind of interspersed throughout this episode, I enjoyed as well.
Yeah, me too.
Yes,
like I think he's like doing a little songwriting, and he kept getting interrupted.
It's a little levity that slips in throughout the episode with him.
Yeah, it kind of breaks the tension a little bit, and it's kind of needed because it's a pretty heavy episode when you actually look at it as a whole. So those Yesker moments were much needed and appreciated. Yeah, especially when they could intertwingle like some of his emotional stuff, where he's talking about, I've been telling him to take care of himself and not Ciri, and I was wrong.
Yeah. I love Jaskier. a lot more than I like Dandelion or whatever you want to call them in the books. Dandelion, Dandelion, depending on how the narrator feels on that day. Or how it's spelled in the book, actually, because it's two different spellings.
Mogideon, Mogadine, it's all the same.
Yeah. Mogidean.
And it's like, I feel like the end song should be talk about more, but people are complaining more about how this episode wasn't to the books.
No, it wasn't.
Online. Like, if you go online, everybody was complaining about this episode was not following the books. Like, they talk about that fight scene, the one behind Hugh, and it's like, because it didn't happen in the books, like, oh, that's, a travesty. And like
adaptation, people, adaptation.
And it's like,
it's in the word,
A big thing for me is like that scene in this show is like really showing like this is Geralt's change from neutrality.
Yeah, he chose
it's showing, it's showing and not telling.
He's taken a side.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
And he's gonna tear through that other side.
I don't think he's gonna stick entirely on that path of having chosen a side, because that's kind of
he's choosing Ciri.
Yeah, they're just in his way and they pissed him off.
Yeah.
I think
that's a choice, man.
Yeah, but I don't think I think he's just as likely to kill northern soldiers who are doing the same thing, and they do the same thing.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the side he picked is the side of the oppressed.
Yes.
That's what he's standing up for.
Well,
just like, I mean, Ciri's been the one on the brunt end of people after her and doing things to her, and he's sick of people getting away with doing things to the helpless. So here you go. Bam.
He's been doing that since episode 1. That's why.
Good point.
Well, that was the whole reason he went back into Butcher of Ravnica or something like that. What was the name of the city?
Lavican?
Butcher Ravican or something like that. Ravica. When he went back into town to stop those thugs, Renfrey and her thugs, that was the whole reason. It was because he was trying to protect the people of the city who are about to be oppressed or terrorized.
So you're saying this is no change at all?
Well,
this is just who he is.
Defending the oppressed, defending the weak, even if he's not getting paid, despite what he says, is what he does. What he says he does isn't always what he actually does. Geralt's not completely honest with himself throughout.
What?
Yeah, who is?
So you're saying he's Matt Coffin?
Yeah, in some ways.
I mean,
some ways.
Yeah.
I think
that's that sort of person who will do it and then claim I didn't do anything.
I do think the two of them would get along for a little while, and then Geralt would probably get annoyed with Matt, because Matt can be annoying.
Well, Matt would put a badger in a sleeping bag and then.
I'm like, yeah.
Ease it in.
Yeah.
Plus, Geralt would lose at all the dicing games all of a sudden, and that's really going to make him angry.
Or just lose at Gwent, one of the two.
I want to play that game sometime. I think they made cards for that, so you could play it in real life, not just in the game. But some of those cards look pretty cool.
All right, question number 4: how well written was dialogue, and did it adapt the dialogue from the books well?
Yeah, I think so.
Were appropriate. I think so.
Yeah, where they drew straight from the book, it was done right.
Yeah.
Nothing was poor.
I did not re-listen to the chapter today, so I cannot say for sure if they stole directly from the book.
I don't think there's any line stolen that I can think of. Not that I know.
I did reread it or re-listen to it, and I can't tell you if there's a word from word quote. I don't think there is, but I mean, it's an adaptation. Not everything is going to be word for word, and honestly, this episode worked really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
I think with the changes they made, they needed to make, but I was really taken with both the letters, though, and the way that it was edited in over the top of action, to the point where I typed them in as I was listening to it about an hour ago, sitting here watching and just typing away, as they narrate their thing, because they were both pretty good. But yeah, neutrality be damned, as Jennifer says, but I don't think it's. I think that's her stance. I don't think that's going to be Geralt's permanent stance.
Question 5. Did the actors deliver their lines well? Who would you call a best and worst or a worst actor? And you can choose up to 3, Glenn.
I'll let you kids go first. Max, how about you?
Oh, Jaskier.
Yeah, Joey Beatty.
Yeah,
Beatty's great.
I was leaving it at
that. I actually have 2. I'm gonna go with Henry Cavill because, like I said, I think this was great send off for him.
Yeah.
There were some very touching and meaningful moments, especially between him and Yen. I know it doesn't happen in the books, but that was beautiful. And it's kind of how we all feel with him leaving as the Witcher. And let's see if I can say her name correctly. Meng'er Zhang as Milva.
Meng'er Zhang, I think. Meng'er.
Yeah. I'm actually enjoying her performance.
I like her as Milva.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing her next season. I can't quite give her the top billing, but I am looking forward to her next season. She was entertaining, and I love the way she annoyed the hell out of Geralt. Just made me laugh.
You need to get her a fishing rod next season.
Ooh, good idea.
Yeah, I almost listed her, so I'm glad you did. I ended up picking somebody else. Jim?
Well, I just have 3 that I put for best. I don't have a worst. But
yeah, I didn't even.
Graham McTavish as Dijkstra again, right there with Cassie Clare, Philippa.
Yeah.
The 2 of them, every scene they were in, they nailed it this time. It was really good, and their chemistry together was the most powerful we've seen.
Yeah.
But also, Anya Chalotra. Again, this was a really well acted episode for her.
Yeah.
She had some powerful moments, and I thought she delivered.
So did I. She's actually one of my 3 that I picked. Like I said, I almost picked Meng'er Zhang. Almost picked Ed Birch for Vizimir, but no, he got eked out by Miana Buring as Tisea. Seeing her send off was pretty powerful in her work. But I also really liked Misha Simpson as Francesca. Especially namely that scene with her and Fringilla in the chapel where all the candles were around her. I thought she was pretty powerful. So where are we at now, Max?
Question 6 of the themes present in this episode. Which ones got your attention? What did you think about these themes that are developed for the books from events happening in real life?
I always go last on this one.
For me, one of the big ones was forgiving yourself. I mean, everybody in this episode sort of had a moment where they had to reflect on a failure and either choose to get on their feet and rise above it or accept defeat.
Yeah.
So for me, that was a big one for the episode.
I had one that was very similar. It's just worded different. Accepting the consequences. And then moving on or not.
Right.
And that's a choice everyone makes. So yeah, very similar to what you said.
Any others, Jim?
That's really all that jumped out when I was thinking of deeper themes.
Max?
I was just trying to think, what'd you call a theme of what Geralt did to those guards?
Taking out a
badassery?
Just
badassery?
Stress relief?
That works too.
Recreational annihilation?
It's a good one.
Yeah. A manic Monday?
Yeah.
Deconstruction?
Yeah. That all works.
Taking out the trash.
Yeah.
Any others? I've got a few.
I'm wondering what you have, Glenn. What do you have?
I got a few. I'll get to the big one last. There was a bit of family going on. I mean, the whole Yennefer, Geralt, Ciri thing, that's just inherent to the story. Family's always going to be inherent. It's going to be a theme almost as often as racism's a theme on this show. There's also family involved there with Radovid and his brother, the king, Vizimir.
Mm-hmm.
And in theory, Meng'er was welcoming his daughter home, but nobody knows that. And nobody knows it really wasn't.
Nope.
Sorrow was a theme. Tissaia was filled with sorrow over not just the missing students, but for the deaths that are happening in this war. Yen and Geralt both feel a lot of sorrow because they lost Ciri. Tying into what Jim and Bill said, self-recrimination is how I put it down. Geralt's blaming himself for losing Ciri. Tissaia is blaming herself for this war that has started, that she wasn't able to prevent it. And so she's taking the blame for everyone who dies in it. Dykstra kind of was with some self-recrimination when he was with, alone drinking and then talking with Philippa. He admitted that they fucked up and that he should pay the price. And it was like, here, you kill me. Say it was my fault. Brings me to the big one, which is just all over the place. Sometimes some of these are a little bit of a stretch, but betrayal. I found a lot of betrayal, and I'll admit some of them, like I said, are stretching. Vizimir is killed by his servant Eva, apparently at the behest of Philippa. So two betrayals right there. Francesca learns of Emir's betrayal and killing of her baby, and of Fringilla's keeping it a secret from her. Tissaia is still reeling from Vilgefortz's betrayal of her. We don't see that betrayal this episode, but we see the results of it, so I'm counting it. Mm-hmm. This one's a little bit of a stretch. Francesca low-key betrays Fringilla by deciding to take Emir's offer, his plan, instead of going with whatever plan, because we never heard it, whatever plan the two of them were doing. She was going to renege on that with Fringilla.
We kind of did hear. She said their plan was to be at the front so they could get Ciri, use Ciri to get the elves off the sphere.
Okay, I missed that. I must have missed it.
It was within the conversation. It was woven in and out. So,
okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Emir betrays the Scoia'tael. The Scoia'tael did their part, and he's making them keep fighting. Let's see. This one is why Yennefer is angry at Tissaia, because in a way you could say Tissaia betrayed Yennefer by committing suicide.
Yeah,
that was a betrayal.
Well, I found it ironic that she did it in the exact way that Yennefer tried to kill herself. I mean, so that kind of ties them together. And that moment when Yennefer grabs her arm, that's what she's doing is this, that spot where she tried to kill herself and she felt it. So, I mean, that just made it a little more eerie and icky.
I do think it's neat that Tissaia is, I don't know, I'm gonna say that's weed she's smoking just because I'm the geeky hippie, but it's probably but who knows, it could be magical stuff in there in that little pipe of hers. Where was I? Oh, you could kind of say Radovid betrayed Vizimir when he asked Vizimir to let him go, let him leave court, because Radovid wanted to leave and go work and help.
I don't think that's really a betrayal.
Yeah, I won't buy that one.
Some of these,
you've made a lot of good points, but I think you missed on that one.
His brother wasn't, he wasn't integral in working with his brother. His brother was just sort of filling him into empty straw man spots. He even says that. So
trying to find something for him, but like I said, they're a stretch. It looks like Dykstra, it looks like Dykstra's about to betray Philippa and kill her. It was a fake out, though, because he was going to have her kill him. So that one's a stretch, but it plays into what could have been a betrayal, would have been a betrayal if what we thought was going to happen. Still going. I got a few more. Philippa.
Oh, dear Lord.
Philippa betrayed Dykstra by not including him in her plans, and by going ahead and just killing the king without, having him as part of it. I do think Dykstra figured that out, though. When you're watching her crown Radovid, just his body language, I think Dykstra realized Philippa arranged the assassination. Dara, remember Dara, Ciri's old friend, the elf? He admits that, he did Ciri wrong. And also, in part just the way he treated her last time they saw each other. Well, the second to last time they saw each other, because he also was betraying her by attacking them at Sherwood with the Scoia'tael at the beginning of the season. And then Dara turns around and betrays the Scoia'tael by deserting. He left. He's tired of fighting and running. Almost done. Somebody, we don't yet know who, but it's probably, might be what's his name? To say it.
Visiforts?
No, Vilgefortz. So
Yeah,
many
Vilgefortz.
Vilgefortz. It's probably Vilgefortz on the show, but someone betrayed Emir by giving him Terran as a fake Cyrilla. There at the end. Yeah, that's a betrayal, giving a fake person when you know it's a fake, and I'm pretty sure they know whoever gave it to him gave her to him knew it was she was a fake.
Well, I think that he knows it's a fake as well.
He does. He played off really well that he didn't notice, but he was betrayed. Yeah. It was a betrayal, of his orders.
Yeah.
And the last one, that's a little bit of a stretch, maybe, but. Ciri betrays Geralt's teaching, what he taught her, when she killed Scoia'tael.
I'm going to go with no on that one.
I don't think she needed to kill Scoia'tael. I think she wanted to, and she wanted to take out all of her anger and resentment and just pay back everybody that's done her wrong. But I think it was the exact kind of killing that he told her not to do.
I mean,
he's doing right there. Geralt's betraying his own teachings right there. Yeah.
I don't see that as a betrayal, especially with she's thrown into a life or death situation where it's kill or be killed. It's not her fault that she's just better at it.
She could have fucked him up and let him go. Well,
no,
rats would have killed
she
him.
couldn't.
It was a duel to the death, wasn't it?
Well,
yeah.
Nothing like that was said, but the rats would have killed him if she had. But
yeah, and probably her.
I don't know if they could. If they tried to kill her, I don't know if they could.
All of them together against Ciri, absolutely they could.
I don't know. Maybe.
I do. 100% they could. There's just way too many. The numbers alone are enough to make up for no matter how badass she is with a sword right now.
We'll see. Well, we won't see, but I think she could have taken. But who knows? That was all I had. But betrayal was definitely in there. It is sometimes just a little trickle of betrayal. On the ones that I did stretches with. But did anybody else have any notes in their notes that they wanted to bring up? Because I have a couple of questions.
Well, we do actually have more questions for the night.
Oh. Right, because it was a season finale.
That's right. Thank you for reminding me, guys. Let's move along, and then I'll bring up my other notes.
All right. How well did the writers of the production handle the characters? Did the writers and directors understand the characters? This includes casting choices, character motivations, backgrounds, writing choices, etc.
I'd say yes. This season, they had a better grasp on the characters and their values and sort of ideals and directions they were going. Seemed to have a firmer hand. So I definitely think it was an improvement over season 2. Just going to say that.
I think they did to an extent now really well, so that it's hard not to see these actors when I'm picturing these characters. When I'm rereading or listening, this is who I see. That's always a good sign that they've done that naturally. That's also what's going to make it so hard with Henry Cavill leaving the show, because that's who you see.
Cavill's the one I don't see. I actually see that guy there, and I've never played that game. I see that guy up there, neck behind Max, with Peter Kenny's voice in the audiobooks as Geralt. That's the voice I hear. Well, obviously, because I'm listening to the audiobook. But I picture that voice coming out of that face up there. I don't picture Henry Cavill. And I like Cavill. I'm a fan of Cavill. You know, he made that Superman movie tolerable. You know, but and he was great on The Tudors, and I've seen him, you know, do some other stuff. But I'm a fan of Henry Cavill's acting, but he's not. Everybody else, you know, the women, that's who I picture. Except I don't picture Graham McTavish as Dijkstra.
See, we're clearly different people here, though, because Graham was one of my favorite characters.
I love his performance. He's great,
but it works for me. I mean, I know Book Dijkstra is different, but I now see Graham McTavish. He's so personified the role. But yeah, Henry Cavill I thought he really owned The Witcher. He personified Geralt.
Well, I played the games, and I picture Henry Cavill.
I won't deny that he was great as Geralt. You know, he's been one of my 3 a number of times. But he's great. He's not the face my brain pictures as I'm sitting here at night listening to the audiobook. I don't even picture Joey Beatty as Dandelion or Dandelion. You know,
Does it help when you see this face? You know, when he's in this mode, does it look more Witcher for you then?
It does. It looks great as the Witcher. But I think Liam Hemsworth will look right, and I think he'll be great. He is a good actor. I'm not going to say necessarily he's on par with Henry Cavill. I haven't seen him in that much stuff. But I'm fairly confident about that. What was the question?
For me, how well the writers and production handle the characters, and
go ahead.
Directors that are set of characters. For me, I'd say that the directors and writers, for Freya, for instance, I felt like they gave better direction to her as an actor this season. And maybe, season 2, they gave her a lot better direction than season 1 for sure.
Yeah.
And they improved upon that season upon season, and they gave her a lot more direction this season than even last season. Like, she just improved every season, and like this season she improved even more than like first season. Because like the first season, like I didn't know where she was going to go as an actor. Like, because there was like nothing there, if that makes sense.
I think she was great in season 1, and I think part of what I like is they managed to make her seem like a 10, 12-year-old little girl when the actress was like 18, 19 years old. And a lot of it was hair and makeup, and the fact that she looks young, and costuming. The costuming helped on that too.
Yeah, I just didn't get really much of a personality out of her in the first season.
I like how she's matured as a character and as an actor.
Just for me as an actress in the first season, I didn't really get much of a personality out of her.
That's fine.
And she's grown to like third season where she actually seems to have more there. The same with Yennefer. I felt like she's grown every season as an actress. See, it's pretty much true for everyone that it got more and more direction as it's gone on. Henry Cavill's always just been Henry Cavill. He's just, he's never really improved because he's always been himself. In season 3, we had some maybe questionable choices in like how they did some of the earlier episodes. Just in what we have, Radovid, or whatever his name is. just aging him up quite a bit in the relationship with Dandelion. It just, obviously having a relationship with Dandelion has to make sense if they age him up, because if they didn't age him up, they have a lot more questions to answer for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that in itself is interesting. The changes in the plot, that for TV, it gives other characters things to do. And especially with giving trying to think what his name is. The fake out we had, I'm trying to think what his name is.
Which fake out?
I know you're gonna have to be more specific.
Yeah, there were a few.
Trying to think of the guy in the one that they framed, the frame job. In the tower. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. I brained it here. Not Dijkstra, the other guy.
Yeah, the guy we hate.
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, Firefuck.
Okay. Man, I'm gonna have to do so much bleeping on this episode. Oh well.
I'm brain dead on the guy's name right now.
Right.
From no, sorry, not him. The very first episode of this series.
Yeah, he's the one who got
Stregobor.
For the girls.
Stregobor.
Yeah,
Stregobor. Yeah.
Stregobor.
Like bringing him in there, fake out with him, like they made it and all that stuff. Giving him back into the show had nothing to do with the books in ways.
When you've got Lars Mikkelsen on your cast, you use him.
Mm-hmm.
You use him. Even if he's only in one short story back in the first book, you use him. And you continue to use him whenever you can. You make him the scapegoat, the fall guy.
Well, he sort of made himself that, and we were glad to see him go down.
Right?
He was pretty reprehensible on the show.
Yeah.
So it's like, that was definitely a writing choice. They understood that character, I would say.
And you know what? In a couple,
it was a choice.
In a couple of days, we're going to get to see him again, but in a different role. I got to plug us.
Well, is it that different?
Well, Grand Admiral Thrawn is a lot smarter and not nearly as much of a son of a bitch as Stregobor is.
Really?
He actually has a sense of honor. He has a code.
He does.
Stregobor does.
Yeah, okay.
But
I loved Thrawn. I just wished he was on the other side. So, yeah.
Thrawn's a complicated character in the books and on the show and on Rebels. And I can't wait to see him on Ahsoka. Little diversion there, but hey, I'm a Star Wars nerd first and foremost, so. Next question.
Question 8. Who do you say was the MVP for the season? And this could be an actor, director, writer, or anyone on the cast and crew.
I'll go first on this one. He's had an increased role on the show this season compared to what he has at this point in the books. And he's been named a number of times as my favorite actor, one of my favorite actors for the episode, but Joey Beatty as Jaskier has just been awesome. I mean, I've said it before, I love the TV character of Jaskier a lot more than I like any version of Dandelion in the books. I don't know him from the game, so I don't know what he's like on the game, but I like this more mature and more loyal Jaskier. Now, he's still pretty loyal in the books, but he's also not nearly as much of a creep that, as Jaskier or as Dandelion had a tendency to be at times. That's my MVP. Jim?
Well, if they had kept Radovid at the same age, he'd definitely be a creep.
Yeah, that would have been troublesome.
I don't think they would have done that at all if they hadn't aged Radovid up and made him the brother instead of the son.
For me, it was Freya. I mean, she really came alive, I think, this season. So, yeah, I mean, she stepped up in a big way, and Yeah, it's weird. It's like you said, we're starting to see her more as a young woman as opposed to, this bratty kid. And that transition between the two, she's done admirably, and some really emotional scenes this season. And she pulled them off with vigor, and it was good. I loved it. So
she was especially strong last week's episode, I think. This episode too. Yeah, I think she was really good. Can't argue with that. How about you, Jim?
It'd be Anya. I think she really has been strong this season, and by far her best. Definitely has figured out Yennefer better than she had before, and I enjoy every time I see her on the screen.
I love her as Yen. I definitely picture Anya Chalotra when I hear Peter Kenny reading her character.
And I love when the glint of purple comes through well. It doesn't always, like not in that picture, but those purple eyes.
Those eyes just draw me in, and I'm just like I melt when I see those eyes. Celebrity crush. Well, character crush. Because she doesn't have the violet eyes in real life, unfortunately. How about you, Max? Who's your MVP?
I gotta agree with you, Glenn. And pretty much for the final music number he does.
You really like Ride With Your Ride.
I do.
Oh, it was awesome, man.
Yeah, that's like Max's new theme song. Max is gonna be driving down the street and bumping that loud.
No, I just need a bard off between him and the other quintet.
Valdo Marx and company.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of wishing they got fed to the sea monster myself. They were annoying.
I just wanted a bard off between them.
That would have been cool.
The quintet versus him.
I think Dandelion. I mean, Yasker could do that.
He has to harmonize with himself.
What's our next question?
Our rating questions. 9A. How close was the adaptation to the source material out of 10? 10 being the highest, 0 being the lowest.
For the season.
Yes.
I struggled with this for a little bit. I was like,
I'll let you go, Jim. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I wrangled. I went this way. I went that way. There's some episodes that swayed me more one or another, and I still feel like maybe I'm being too generous, but I give it a 7.5.
I match you exactly.
I do too, which is funny because I did the same thing.
Because I sometimes I want to go high, and then I remember this other episode, and I'm like, that's not book,
I went 7.2.
7 point.
Wow, we're all really close.
So we're all pretty close.
I guess we're right. That means
that was just a number that came to my head.
Well, I mean, it's our show, so we're always right.
Yes. We disagree with both, right?
All right.
9B.
9B. How much you enjoyed the show as if you'd never read the books?
As if we were virgins of the story. This season.
Okay, this is a weird one for me because I watched the first 2 seasons without ever reading the books. So I came into this season finally catching up. So I can tell you I thought season 1 was good. I thought season 2 was okay. I now think season 1 was okay. Season 2, not so much. And I really enjoyed this season. So
would you give it a number?
This season, honestly, probably 8.5. I got to save 10s for, really good stuff, but 8.5 probably. It's the highest so far. So
Max?
Let's see. Right, a 7.5.
Okay. Why? Just The number you pulled?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
It
think they
wasn't.
hit a lot of the beats from the story. I mean, even if they're not exact, they hit the beats that the actual book hits. So I mean, that's the point.
Yeah.
Is to
As
hit those
as a
beats.
show outside of books, it wasn't like the top tier television I'd expect to watch. There were too many slow episodes that just didn't hit it. And especially when you have that finale, that mid finale we had, and then you have that slow episode
Yeah.
as a starter.
Well, no, the first episode after the break
Yeah.
in volume 2 was the fight at Aretusa, with the fire and all
Yeah.
that.
It was
Yeah.
the one after it that was.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know what I
episode
mean.
7 is what he's, or 6
Yeah.
7.
is what it.
Yeah.
7, yeah.
I think they
7.
broke.
6 was all action.
If they had to break the season up, which I don't understand why they did, but it worked for us because it works for our schedule going right into Wheel of Time after a week break. But I don't know why they split it, but if they had to, they split it at the right spot. But how much I enjoyed this season as if I hadn't read the books. I think it was a damn fine episode or season of television. Just television, not even looking at it as an adaptation, but on its own as television. So I'll give it an 8 point. I'll give it an 8.0 for how much I would have enjoyed if I hadn't read the books, which I've now gone through like 3 times each. So
I'm
I
on
went
my
just
first
a tad
read through.
higher. I went 8.2.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I don't know. Just a 8.0 wasn't enough for me. I thought if I was just the random person who liked fantasy stuff, I didn't read the books and I'm watching it, 8.2. It wasn't as good as it could have. It had moments this season for sure, but then it had other moments.
What was your number, Bill? You said 7.
I gave it a 8.5, just purely out of TV enjoyment.
That's right. And then we have a last question.
9C, how much did you enjoy the show taking account all the changes? So, like averaging those two together.
I'll say 8.0 again.
8.0, same thing.
Yeah, 8 is what I
7.5.
had as well.
7.5. All right. Did anybody have anything else that they wanted to mention? I had.
I'm just interested to see where they go from here, considering some of the plot points they did leave out.
Yeah.
Certain characters doing certain things, or in the TV show that they weren't doing in the books at all, because they were a statue.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm interested to see where that goes.
It looks like the lodge is being formed. They haven't called it such yet, and it hasn't been formal, but it looks like Yennefer is going to be forming the lodge instead of Philippa, is my guess for the future.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. So should be interesting.
I will say leaving the statue part out is a very understandable adaptation.
Oh no,
choice.
I get it.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering where they're going with the story from there.
Yeah, because we've already.
But I get why. Like I said, I just think this was a really good send off for Henry Cavill. I'm gonna miss him and the character. Although I am looking forward to seeing what Mr. Helmsworth can bring to the role. So I'm gonna give it a shot, and we'll see.
I am very much on the fence on whether I want to give nothing against Liam Hemsworth, but
no, I get you.
It's not my Witcher now, so I don't know that I'm gonna bother. I probably will. I don't know. I'm gonna be on the fence until it drops. I don't know.
I was looking at it, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot. So
I feel confident that we're gonna get a good performance out of Hemsworth. So, well, thank you, Jim, for coming on, helping us for another season finale. It's 2 season finales in a row. You might be our new closer. It
is an absolute pleasure. Thank you, and I'll take that nickname, the closer.
The closer.
Thank you, Bill and Max, for helping me on this channel. Thank you guys at home for watching. Please leave us a thumbs up, a like, give us some comments, and hey, if you're not subscribed and you're watching this, please subscribe. It helps. So, Everybody at home, thanks for watching, and don't forget to be awesome.
See ya.